Hello everyone, Shawn with Johnston RV and welcome back to Weekend Workshop. Today we're talking about the storing of your RV and some of the challenges that are involved with that and some of the benefits that are involved with it too, just depending on your circumstances and situations. So first off would be not being able to keep your RV at home and having to store it off-site, or leaving it at a campground for months at a time. You know, if you've got a homeowners association and live in one of those types of neighborhoods, that might be one reason why. Just purely don't have the space, and you keep it in one of these storage facilities off-site. The problem with that is not being there with your camper all the time to check it out conveniently. And what I have seen out of that scenario is the camper being gone for months at a time. Then you're ready to use it, and you go to the unit, and it has leaked in the inside. Moisture's gotten in there, and it's a big problem. Also, the extreme temperatures that a camper can reach just being closed up and at a facility like that. Sometimes they've got overhangs, that definitely helps, but a lot of times they're just out in the open. And even if you were to put one of these RV covers over it, which does help the deterioration of the roof and all that, kind of minimize that a little bit, you're still getting extreme temperatures in the summer and winter inside that unit. What's important to do there is try to minimize your moisture as much as possible, okay? And one way you can do that is with your vent, okay? But you can't leave your vent open or rain would get in there. So there's these Max Air covers is one brand. There's several other brands too. But what that allows you to do is to crack the skylight open a little bit and let some type of airflow through the camper. And then the moisture, again, you know, there's all kinds of little absorbent things you can put inside the camper that they sell. Those do okay, but not in our humidity. They really don't do a good enough job. And a lot of times you don't have access to power at these facilities, so you're not able to run the AC, put a dehumidifier in it, or any of the other things that you should typically do to control moisture. So just cracking that vent is about all you have, as long as it's got one of those covers on it. I still recommend, even if you're keeping it off-site, to, you know, at least every 90 days, go check on your camper. Make sure that there's been no leaks, that everything's still good in it. You know, this opening and closing of that vent from time to time, if you could do that, kind of like, especially in the extreme summer months, make sure that there's some ventilation through there at some point is a very good habit to get into. And just check the camper overall. Like we talk all the time, you know, camper roofs have to be inspected. You have to check seals, and being out there, if it is in one of the facilities that's just in the open sun, baking in that sun every day is where a lot of that deterioration can come from. And inside your house, you know, if you're leaving for a vacation or something like that, usually you turn the thermostat, you know, to a temperature where the AC or heat doesn't come on a lot, but it's not going to allow it to freeze or get 100 degrees inside your home. We don't do that with campers a lot of times, unfortunately. We just close them up and stick them out in the yard, and that extreme temperature can do a number to speeding along deterioration of the inside and outside. So just keep that in mind. You're just going to have to visit from time to time and make sure that you check on it and you don't have these problems come up. The next off-site deal would be keeping it in the campground, and that is very common. So you go to one of these campgrounds that's got these monthly fees, and you keep the camper there and you use it on the weekends or every couple of weeks or whatever. One of the biggest questions I get on that is, do I roll my slides in or leave them out? And the best answer to give there is roll them in. I can honestly tell you there's been many times where I haven't. I've left them rolled out. But when you don't know what kind of weather is going to come, when you don't know what's going to be falling on it, it's worth the time to roll the slide in, get up on the roof, make sure there's no pine cones or sticks or anything, roll the slide in, and then when you get back to the camper, you'll roll it out. Same thing with the storage facility. Don't leave it sitting there too long without checking on it. You're hooked up to power. The good thing about that is you can set the AC. I set mine on 85 almost never come on at that temperature. You can do higher or lower, but that's, you know, it's just, if it gets that hot in there, you're going to need some AC in there. A dehumidifier is another good idea, leaving it at a campground. Just let it run, sit it somewhere in the 55 humidity range with nobody there. That should be fine to keep the inside fresh and not getting that moldy, musty smell from sitting there. And winterization on all these scenarios is incredibly important. The storage facility, you're going to have to do the method of winterization where you use the antifreeze. The other methods of air, just letting the unit drip dry with the draining the water, I don't recommend any of those. If it's going to be offsite in a facility where you can't get to it before a freeze, you definitely want to use the antifreeze method, where you put antifreeze through the entire unit, open every single faucet, and let the antifreeze come through there so that you know it's inside each fitting. And that's really the only way to store a camper in the winter at one of those facilities. If you're able to keep your camper at home like I do, there's a lot of benefits to that. You can I suggest getting a box, an electrical box installed by an electrician. Mine, for instance, has a 50 amp, a 30 amp, and a 110 outlet all in my yard, where I can hook up various different types of campers and keep it plugged in. So I do that. I keep my temperatures just at above freezing and not a scorching hot temperature, and just keep the camper plugged in. And you wouldn't believe what that does to preserving the inside, just making it always feel comfortable in there, not getting that closed up smell. And I highly recommend that. For keeping the camper at home, you've got it packed. You're always got it ready to go. If you guys want to take a spur of the moment trip, you just go outside, throw the items you need to take with you, and head off, which is really nice. It's a great guest house for when people come over. And probably one of the coolest things is that if you were to lose power for some reason, you have got your whole little self-contained unit out there. If you're a dry camper, then you're going to be prepared with a generator or something like that, to where you can run your camper and have all the comforts of home, hot running water, all that stuff. Those tornadoes that came through April many years ago, we had a camper, and we were the only ones on our street that had all that stuff, and people were coming over using our camper, and it was really cool to have the ability to do that. So just keep that in mind. But that's it in a nutshell. I really just making sure that camper's just not sitting somewhere, you know, and a leak has popped up. We just had that happen to us just recently. A customer traded in their camper, and we went out and found all this water damage. They're like, oh, we hadn't used this thing in 6 months, and we just hooked up to it and brought it in here. And Mr. Customer, unfortunately, from front to back, you've got water in your roof, and here's why. We took them up to the roof, and there was just this little spot where the ceiling had dried up and water gotten in there, and they didn't know. So if you check on it from time to time, you can eliminate those things. Close that vent, open that vent from time to time with a cover over it, which we install those. You're good to go. So that's just a little piece of advice on storing your camper. Thank you, everybody.